Welcome to the AI and GIS Frontier podcast. Let's get into today's topic.
Today we are talking about autonomous GIS agents, AI systems that can independently perform multi-step spatial analysis with minimal human intervention. This feels like science fiction, but it is happening right now. It does feel that way, but the research is very real. The core idea is that instead of an AI just answering one question or running one tool, it can plan and execute an entire analytical workflow. You say, I need a wildfire risk assessment for this forest district, and the agent figures out it needs to pull weather data, load fuel-type maps, run a fire behavior model, overlay it with values at risk, and produce a final report. All autonomously.
How far along are we with this? Is this something GIS professionals can use today?
We are in early stages, but moving fast. The most concrete example is GIS Copilot integrated into QGIS, which demonstrated an 86% success rate on guided multi-step spatial tasks. That means for tasks where you give it a clear objective, it succeeds most of the time. But it still needs human supervision, especially for complex analyses where the consequences of an error are significant. Think of it like a very capable junior analyst who can execute workflows quickly, but needs a senior person reviewing the output.
What does the adoption timeline look like?
The research community has laid out a two-phase forecast. Phase 1, from 2025 to 2027, is where large organizations pilot simple, agentic workflows for routine tasks. Think government agencies automating their monthly land use change reports, or forestry companies running standardized harvest compliance checks. Phase 2, from 2027 to 2030, is when commercial platforms roll out and broader adoption happens through cloud services and industry-specific applications. That is when a small environmental consulting firm will be able to subscribe to an AI-powered GIS service that handles routine analytical tasks.
Let us talk about what this means for forestry workflows specifically.
Forestry is actually one of the best use cases for autonomous GIS agents because the workflows are well-defined and repetitive. Think about annual allowable cut calculations. Every year, a forest district has to update their timber supply analysis. That involves pulling the latest inventory data, running growth and yield projections, applying management constraints, calculating harvest schedules, and producing maps and reports. Today, that is weeks of analyst time. An autonomous agent could handle the data preparation, run the standard models, and produce draft outputs in hours. The forester then spends their time on the judgment calls, the trade-offs between timber harvest and habitat protection, rather than on data wrangling.
What about environmental assessment workflows?
Environmental impact assessments are another perfect target. Consider a pipeline or road project through forested land. You need to delineate the study area, identify sensitive ecosystems, map wildlife corridors, calculate habitat fragmentation metrics, assess hydrological impacts on downstream watersheds, and compile it all into a regulatory submission. An autonomous agent could handle the spatial analysis chain, pulling from wetland inventories, species at risk databases, hydrological models, and producing the quantitative components of the assessment. The environmental scientist focuses on interpretation and recommendations rather than clicking through geoprocessing tools for days.
The job market seems to be reflecting this shift. AI-related GIS jobs are growing at 30% annually?
That is right, and over 40% of GIS jobs now require some AI proficiency. But here is the nuance that gets lost in the headlines. These are not replacing GIS jobs, they are transforming them. The demand is for people who can set up, configure, and validate autonomous workflows, not for people who can manually digitize polygons. For a forester or environmental scientist who learns to work with these tools, their productivity multiplies dramatically. One person can now do the analytical work that used to require a team.
Are there risks with giving an AI agent autonomous control over GIS analyses?
Absolutely. The biggest risk is cascading errors. If the agent makes a wrong assumption in step 1, say it uses the wrong coordinate reference system, every subsequent step builds on that error. In a forestry context, that could mean a harvest plan that violates a riparian buffer because the buffer was calculated incorrectly. Another risk is data quality. These agents assume the input data is reliable. If your forest inventory is outdated or your wetland layer has not been updated in 10 years, the agent will not know that. Human oversight remains essential, especially for analyses that inform regulatory decisions or have legal implications.
Where do you see autonomous GIS agents in 12 months?
In the near term, I expect Esri to release more capable AI assistants within ArcGIS that can handle multi-step workflows rather than just single operations. QGIS will continue advancing GIS Copilot with community contributions. The most practical impact will be in standardized reporting workflows, things like monthly deforestation alerts, quarterly environmental compliance checks, and annual land cover change products. These are the low-hanging fruit where the workflow is predictable and the cost of automation is clearly justified. The more creative, judgment-intensive work remains human territory for now. And honestly, that is how it should be.
Great perspective. The message seems clear. Autonomous agents are coming. They will handle the repetitive analytical heavy lifting, and GIS professionals who adapt will be more valuable than ever.
Exactly. Start learning the tools now, understand their limitations, and position yourself as the person who can bridge domain knowledge with AI capabilities. That combination is going to be incredibly in demand.